I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Sal Conca.
And I'm Wayne Heckler.
And this is The Imperfect Podcast.
Don't forget to check us out at hecklerkane.com and download our episodes for free on iTunes and SoundCloud.
To the bumper.
This week, we're talking with writer and director Tony Germinario. We're going to talk to him about how to transition from short films to making an award-winning feature. He's about to release his first feature film, Bad Frank. It's been winning awards all over the place.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to catch the screener. I know Wayne and I watched it. You loved it.
I really liked it, yeah. I think it is like a must-see. Just to see the character development, I was impressed. And it does not look like an independent film. That looks more of a studio film.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were on the phone with him for a long time. I mean, it was one of the longer interviews we've had in a while because there was just so much to talk about. Talking about his distribution strategy and, you know, how much he made the film for. And
how to build a team.
The cool part is he's kind of like us. He's like the same type of filmmaker that we are.
Because he's Italian and from the New York area.
There you go.
About sums it up right there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I hope you guys all love Tony as much as we did. Check it out. Tony, welcome to the Imperfect Podcast. Thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing this evening?
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. I'm doing great. It's Friday night. All's good in the world.
Awesome. Love to be chatting with you across the river over there in Jersey. So that's where you were born and raised, right?
I was born and raised Bergen County. We have a big Jersey contingent on this film, actually. Myself and Kevin Interdonato, the star of the film, was from New Jersey. Russ Russo, Lynn Mancinelli. About 3/4 of the cast and crew are all New Jersey.
That's
Excellent.
great. Way to keep it in the hometown. So
exactly.
You don't
Cheap, no travel expenses.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Well, let's get into a bit of your history and how long you've been making films.
Sure. I've been making films probably for about 6 years now. So my younger days, I was actually a musician, and I was actually a touring musician for a number of years throughout New York City and all throughout the Northeast here. But you reach a certain age and have a certain number of kids that you can't drive to Maryland and do gigs at 11 o'clock at night anymore on a Wednesday evening. So I wound up transitioning out of that into film. Probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I wrote my first script and it was awful. Then I wrote my next one, which wasn't as awful, and it progressively got better each time I wrote one. And I was hired by a gentleman by the name of Choice Skinner to write a script for him. He actually had written this advertisement saying, "We've got an idea, we need somebody to write it." So I sent in some samples. I was hired to write the script. I got paid all of $100. So I was a professional screenwriter, so I was thrilled. And, we hit it off. Choice is actually a New York guy himself. So even though he lives out in LA, it was, the whole East Coast connection. And, we hit it off, got along great. I wrote the script for him. It's still sitting somewhere in development limbo on somebody's desk in a studio somewhere. Who knows if anything will ever happen with it. But, we hit it off, and I went to one of his acting classes just to kind of see. I've never been to an acting class. And if you guys have never been to one, go. It's insane. Sure. I met a couple people there, Brandon Heitkamp being one of them. And I wrote a couple of short scripts saying, hey, you guys should, use this if you want to use it for class or something like that. And he said, why don't we just film them ourselves? And, I had no idea what he was talking about. I'd never produced anything or been a part of anything like that. I just wanted to write. Mm-hmm. And we actually went out, we raised, a little bit of money, and we shot 2 short films over the course of a weekend. And, that was really the start of it. Made another short film after that. Then I wrote a feature film that we produced called Wingman Incorporated, which is a professional wingman falls in love with a professional cockblocker. You could tell that was more of a comedic film than Bad Frank was. But I just wrote that one. We filmed it out in LA, and, I wanted to see if I can direct myself, right? I wanted to see if I could do it. And, after getting a lot of experience from Wingman and other things that we've done, and, just getting a lot of input from people like Choice and others, I decided, it was time to try it myself. And that's when we came up with Bad Frank. So, I'd already worked with Kevin before. I'd worked with Brandon before. We decided, let's do something really, really, really low budget, as sparse as we can. I think, we can make it look great for a little bit of money. Mm-hmm. And, we were very fortunate. We got great performances. We got great people involved. And, I feel very lucky that I was able to work with all these people, and I feel very beholden to them. So no matter what I do next, the success, any success that I get is because of these guys. So everything I'm doing, I'm trying to do to help these guys out as well. So it's, I'm very fortunate in that regard.
You seem to be very team oriented. Like I'm looking at like your IMDb, and it's a lot of the same guys that you're working with, and like Brandon in particular is one of them that I noticed on there over and over again. What do you think about, like, what is your philosophy on working with the same people over and over again?
Well, I think it really helps you get a cohesive set, right? Because especially for Bad Frank, we shot the whole thing in 12 days, right? If we didn't have a good working knowledge of how everybody could fit together, there's no way we could have pulled it off, right? And it's funny, as you work on projects, you determine, okay, this is someone I can work with again, so I'm going to keep them in the fold. And there are other people, no fault of their own, they just might not fit, right? So pretty soon who the people that you want to continue working with and that kind of fit the same model, right? So, I like to think I don't have much of an ego when it comes to this stuff. I don't really care as long as it comes out good. Right. So I don't get the credit or anything. And as long as everybody's working hard and doing what they're supposed to, they're good with me. So that's why I like keeping these people close.
And this is the way to do it these days. Let's face it. I mean, a way to make it big is to do it as a team. You rise up together. So you bring people who you connect with and you develop your team.
Exactly. Look at like Judd Apatow, right? He works with the same guy over and over again, right? That's what I aspire to be, is like a guy like that who is, or even somebody like Kevin Smith. He works with Ben Affleck all the time, even though Ben Affleck's one of the biggest actors in the world now. All Kevin's got to do is just make a quick call to him, and boom, he's done. So I bring Kevin up because we were fortunate to work with Brian O'Halloran on film.
That's right. I was going to say he was in the picture, and I was going, you had the connection to Clerks there, so.
Oh yeah, and that was, you want to talk about surreal? That's one of the movies that growing up I was like, this guy's great. How did he do this? And then when he walked on set the first day, I probably came across as, someone who was kind of maybe a little jerky, but I really wasn't sure. I was just intimidated, and probably more intimidated by him than Tom Sizemore.
Is this your public apology to him now? Is that what this is?
No, I've already done that. So.
Okay.
But no, Brian's great. He's really been promoting the film a ton. He's been awesome to work with, and he's just a good guy. And I said it recently to a friend of mine, is like, next project that I do, or one of the next projects, I want to have him back because I want to be able to give him more time to do what he does, because he had 2 great scenes in the film, but it was only a couple minutes of screen time. He stole a couple of scenes, but I'd love to see him do more. So that's one of the things that I'm hoping to get out of it.
Well, we're going to talk a ton about Bad Frank, but before we get there, let's take a step back into, like, you mentioned you did a bunch of short films and things like that. Now, through your career, how did the short films, did they generate money? Were those income generators for you? Did you just win a bunch of...
No. Yeah. No, they did not generate money. I'm still hoping to find a way to be able to do that. But for me, I'm a kid out of Jersey, right? I just had to figure out a way to make a calling card. That's what it was. It was, there are all these festivals out there, and if you start getting into a couple of them, and if you're fortunate enough to win some awards, you start getting your name out there a little bit. You get some notoriety, and people see you a little bit. That's the only reason why I did that. It's so hard. Now maybe it's a little bit easier if you get on a Vimeo channel or a YouTube channel or something like that. You might be able to find a way to monetize it, but you're never going to make your money back. And I just did it because I didn't go to film school. I didn't do any of that stuff. If I was going to learn, that's how I was going to learn. So that's the only reason why I did it. And money's still money well spent.
Sure. Your story is very similar to ours. I'm sure you can see the guitars back here and all that stuff.
Very jealous. Yes.
What was your instrument of choice?
I was a bass player.
Oh, like Mr. Joe over here.
I got 2 Fender Americans on the wall there, a 5-string and a 4-string right behind us. So
I've got my modulus behind me. It's all packed up, but it still sits there for every once in a while. I'll break it out just to see how it's doing.
Nice, sure.
Very cool. So in transitioning from short films to your feature, what do you really think, how did your process change, or how did it have to change to go from doing shorts to a feature?
Well, for the first feature for Wingman Inc., I was just a writer and a producer, so I didn't really do too much except I showed up on set and just kind of watched and learned, right? So Choice actually was the director of that film, and I just kind of sat on his shoulder, just kind of watched how he did things. And for me, I think the thing that I learned is if you hire the right people, director doesn't have to do all that much, right? It's all in the preparation beforehand, right? You're going to set up your sets and your shot lists and work with your DP to do all that stuff. That was a learning process too, because I hadn't done it before. But fortunately, my DP was great, Mike Hekanova. But it's really just kind of figuring out how do you get the right people in the right spots, and just letting them do what they do. And just my process typically is I'll do a couple of takes where you just go, I'm not even going to say anything. Third take, I might say, all right, here's a little note. You might want to try this, or this is great, but hey, have you thought about this? And just maybe guide them a little bit more. But that's really it. I mean, if you're working with talented people, which every single person on our set was, you don't really have to do that much. It's just make it an easy place to work, make them comfortable, and then the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Sure. Very cool. So let's dive into Bad Frank.
Yeah.
Give the audience a little bit. They have no clue. Like, what's Bad Frank about?
Sure. So Bad Frank, it's a love story. Not really.
I was saying, where's it going with this? Because obviously I did see it. So before you start, I do want to say I was very impressed with Bad Frank. And like you said, the team, I have to say the acting, every single one of them was so strong and believable. So that's what really won me over. This show is very character driven, this film.
Yes.
So it's really all about the characters and the development of them. But I think that's where it started. But great acting. I'm sorry, but please tell us about it.
He always likes to butter up our guests before he asks a question.
Very intense, right? So it's basically it's about this guy Frank who has impulse control disorder, and in his younger days he just messed up all his relationships. So he's ruined his relationships with his family, his friends, and everything. And it's years later. He's got himself straightened out. He's medicated, and he's really just trying to right himself. He's trying to repair his old relationships. And just as he's about to do that, he meets up with someone from his past who sucks him back into his bad ways, and Bad Frank is reborn. So, and you're right. I mean, this film is all about the performances. We don't have special effects. We don't have any crazy car chases or anything like that. We've got a couple of fights that we shot really cool, but it's about intense performances, and Kevin is about as intense as he gets.
Yeah.
And that's tricky territory for an indie, right? Because you could either end up if you could end up in a snooze fest, right? Because if the performances don't hold up, or the script doesn't hold up, or whatever it is, this is where you end up with indie that people go, oh my God, what am I watching? The story doesn't move, right? Your story obviously has a flow. It moves. It progresses. The character has a clear arc, and what happens to Frank and all that type of stuff. And we don't want to give away spoilers, but it gets intense, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, one of the cooler things about it is if you notice throughout the film, there really isn't that much music per se, but there's a lot of sound design. So we have this guy, TJ Jacques, who did a great job of kind of mixing these eerie, creepy sounds as things start affecting Frank, right? So you and it gets stronger and harder throughout the film as he progresses further down into the abyss, right? So, I mean, TJ was phenomenal. He did a great job in it. And that's another thing, in the post-production world that a lot of people don't think about, but that's all part of the team as well. Because if he hadn't done a good job in that part, it wouldn't have been as intense, right? As great as job as Kevin does, you have to have the audio with the video. Yep. And if that wasn't there, it would have been a lot more challenging to keep people interested in it, right? But when you hear some of these noise and you're just like, shit, what is that? Oh my God. It's just, it just keeps the intensity going. And it's such an integral part of the film.
It's funny you say that because I definitely picked up on that. I'm like, listen, it's intensifying the sound because we're all musicians as well. So sound is so important. But when you see it progress like that, I was very impressed.
Yeah, we may have to get his contact info because having a good post guy is,
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, all those guys.
Yeah, he's great. I'll hook you up.
Cool.
The DP also very good. Like you said, it looked fabulous. The film looked great.
Yeah. What was it shot on? Give us some of the geeky tech gear stuff. I mean, are you a gear guy? Joe's the gear guy. So, what did you shoot on?
I'm not the gear guy, but I'm trying to get there. We shot it on the Red. We shot on the Red Epic, and it was basically just a 2-camera shoot. We didn't really have that many takes. So, if we got 3 or 4 takes, sometimes, that was it. We're moving on, right? If we had what we want and we got a good performance out of it, we don't have time to mess around, right? Yeah. It was really 11 and a half days because we got rained out for half a day. Mm-hmm. And, when you're, we probably had 20 to 30 minutes of film that we cut. Mm-hmm. So we were moving, right? And it's, we just had very fortunate circumstances as far as how we get it done.
Did you do did you do 11 straight days, or did you mix it? Like, how did you do it? Was 11 straight days or days off?
No, 6 on, 1 off, 6 on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the funny thing, I still have a regular job. Sure. So I worked Monday through Friday. Our first day of filming was Saturday. I took 4 days off from work while everyone else had a day off. I was working at my regular job. Mm-hmm. Did another week. So it was all done in 8 work days for me. And, but, well worth it. I mean, it's just when you're able to kind of pull something like this together and see it on screen, it was, I was just stoked. It was great.
Sure. What was the budget for a film like this, if you don't mind? And we're curious about, how did you go about getting funded? Did you crowdfund? Did you go out and find investors? What was that process like?
No, the budget was $80K. That was it. And it was basically myself and one of my other producers put up the money. Okay. So, it was, fortunately I have a very understanding wife. Mm-hmm. So
for now.
She let us put up the money, but we filmed at our house. I mean, every single room in our house, the furniture was moved around. The final scene in the dining room where the big fight breaks out, we smashed everything in our dining room. And my wife was just like, I think we could use a couple more broken dishes. I'm like, good, let's go get some. We'll smash them up. But it worked. If you want to do it cheap, like you said earlier, right, you got to use what you have, right? And that's all that we did.
Of course. So what do you think in this process? You were the writer and director, right?
Yeah.
What were the pros and cons of that? Did you find conflict of interest being the writer and director? How do you feel after the process is over now?
No, so I had the original idea for the script and started writing it, and then Kevin and Russ also put a lot of input into it as well, right? So it was a communal effort and a collaboration in the way we did it. And from a directing standpoint, I think it really helps, right? Because I knew the script inside and out. I knew what the motivations were for each of the characters in every scene, and it really helps you dive into it. And I think that's part of the reason Kevin was was able to give such a great performance, and Russ too, right? Russ Russo was Nico, right? And they just showed up and they knew exactly what they needed in each scene, right? So again, it's all about the preparation, how you work together. So for me, I think I'd find it more challenging directing something I didn't write, because you kind of have to interpret what the writer is thinking or what their motivation was behind stuff, and you could be off the mark if you don't have enough time and enough preparation in order to do it. So I kind of like directing my stuff. So like the next 2 or 3 projects that I've got lined up, I'm planning to direct all of them. So unless, someone wants to just give me $1 million to pay for it, then that's fine.
Sure. Of course,
other than that, like, these are my babies at this point.
Yeah. Now, Kevin and Ross, you gave them writing credit as well, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, Kevin did a tremendous amount of work on it. Russ as well. It's like I said, for me, it's a team effort, right? No, we could not. If you pull one person out of this film, I don't think it's the same film it is, exactly, right? So sure. It doesn't matter to me what who they were. Everyone contributed equally to this thing and made it what it is.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And let's talk about Tom Sizemore. How did he get involved with the project, and what was it like working with him? That's named actor. Everybody knows who Tom is. So what was he like to work with?
He was great. He's such a nice guy, and we knew someone who knew him, right? Mm-hmm. So we got him the script, and he said, "Hey, I love it. I'd love to be a part of it." And we actually got him for a very good rate. I cannot disclose what
we don't want to talk about that.
But for an $80K film, you can imagine it wasn't that much, right? But he did a phenomenal job. And the great thing about Tom is he's just a regular guy when he's on set, right? I mean, in one of the scenes, you know, we're throwing him around in the mud and the rain and everything. Or Tom, do you want a mat? Do you want anything? He's like, no, fuck it, let's just do it. Come on, it's got to be real. You know, cool. You don't expect that, right? From you know, it's another person. I mentioned Brian earlier, but you know, when we originally started the schedule, he was going to show up for filming on the third day. Mm-hmm. So I was going to have 2 days to kind of get my legs underneath me because I'd never directed anything before, right? Yeah. So I wanted a couple of days before we bring in Academy Award nominated Tom Sizemore, by you know Steven Spielberg and Oliver Stone, and then you know the schmuck Tony Germinario. So he needs a little time. So you know schedules changed because Kevin had something that he had to change around. So of course day one, first scene, there we are with Tom Sizemore. So it was a funny story on how he got here to New Jersey. So we had to pick him up at the airport, or we're picking up at his house to get to the airport. And George, one of my producers, George Storr, he was on the name patrol duty. So he actually took care of Tom. He took care of Ray Boom Boom Mancini and Brian O'Halloran when they were there. So he was in charge of those guys. So he was supposed to pick Tom up at the airport 2 days before we were going to film. So he's going to pick him up, you know, I think it was like a Thursday night. And then Friday he'd be able to chill and just kind of, you know, get himself prepped and ready. And Saturday we'd start. So I was working on Thursday, you know, my phone rings at about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And it's George. He's like, hey, Toner, you sitting down? I'm like, yeah, why? What's the matter? He's well, Tom missed his flight. I said, oh, shoot, here we go. So what do we got to do? He says, well, it's going to cost $1,200 to get him on the next flight. I said, we only paid $800 for the ticket, so I can't afford another $1,200 in order to send him out here. So I called up Delta Airlines, whatever airline it was. I think it was Delta, and got this sweet little old lady on the phone. I tell her my tale of woe. You know, we're this low-budget film, a filmmaker, and my star is out in California, and he hasn't been able to get here, and I need to get him here. She says, well, is he stuck in traffic? I said, no, he's not stuck in traffic. He's sitting at his house waiting for us to tell him what to do. Oh, she said, so he is stuck in traffic. And I said, yeah, he's stuck in traffic. Says, that's nice. Okay, well, since he's stuck in traffic, if you can get him to the airport within the next 2 hours, there's another flight. We can get him another first-class ticket, and he can get in at 1 a.m. I said, great, done. So we get him there, and poor George was supposed to pick him up at 9:30, but now he's got to pick him up at 1:30 at Kennedy. And I told George, I'm like, listen, I'm staying up. I'm not going to bed until you have him in your hands. I don't want him to text you. I don't want him to call you. You have to actually physically touch him in order for me to go to bed. So about 1:45 in the morning, finally I get the phone call. He's like, and it was just basically him saying, I have him. He hangs up. So I go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I only get about 4 hours sleep. There's a couple messages on my phone from a number that I didn't recognize. And I answer it, and it's a California number, and it's hey Tony, it's Tom Sizemore. I was hoping you'd give me a call. I left all my stuff in George's car. Can you give me a call? Like, oh shit, what is this now? So I listen to the next message. It was 2 minutes later. He's like, hey, it's Tom Sizemore again. Just wanted to see if you can get George to come drop off all my stuff. I was hoping you'd be awake. I'm like, oh my God. I called George, and he answers immediately. He's like, yes, I got him all his stuff. His manager found me. So I was like, all right, great. So it was, you know, one of those things where we're like, oh my God, is everything going to be okay? And then when he showed up on set, he actually told us he was nervous coming on set.
Really?
I said, you know, what are you nervous about? He's like, I don't know any of you guys. You know, I'm just hoping that this is going to work out good and I can perform good for you guys. I'm like, man, that's all I need to hear. You're in. So,
that's great.
Yeah, he was fantastic. Like I said, he did everything we asked of him. He's rolling around the dirt and the mud. And actually, the night he was going to leave, he was done. He had another day that he could have gone off and left. He stayed another day just to kind of hang out and have dinner with us.
Cool. That's awesome.
Very
cool. I mean, you can't say no to having dinner with Tom Sizemore. The guy's a legend, right?
Exactly.
A true professional.
Yeah.
It sounds like, yes.
And there's that one intense scene that we won't talk about too much, right? There's that really intense scene that he's in where it's just blood, sweat, and tears literally all over the place, right? And I'm at, how many times did you shoot that scene? I'm just curious. Was that an improv take, all Tom's on, improv mostly?
We shot it twice. the first time wasn't nearly as long or as intense. Mm-hmm. So we shot it once, and he came over. He's like, "Hey, Tone, I got an idea. Just give me a minute and start rolling the camera, and then I'll come in." So he went outside, and we hit action. We're rolling, and then just boom, the doors fly open. He comes charging in, and that scene it goes on for 6-7 minutes. It was nonstop. We kind of, with Tom, we could just give him the framework of what we want to happen, and he says whatever he wants, right? Right. So, and he's spot on. Like, he did this, I don't know if you guys caught it, but he did this, I don't know if I should even say it. You can get in trouble. He talks about something that happened in real life. There's some research that he did for a film. Okay. And he actually brings it up saying that somebody else did it. Gotcha. But he tied it to a true person. Mm-hmm. Yep. And he told me that, and I was like, dude, you have knowledge that I have no idea what you're talking about. So it was pretty fucked up. I mean, he was kind of he's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Cool. Nice. Well, his performance was stellar, so I think that has a lot to do with the recognition that's been given to the film, right? So you've won 11 awards for the film so far, I believe.
Yeah, we've been doing pretty good.
Yep. So that leads me to, what is the distribution strategy for this film? Where does it go from here?
Well, we actually, great timing. We signed our distribution deal this week.
Oh, so awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So we're just getting the date set right now, but it looks like in early July we are going to have full domestic distribution through Gravitas Ventures.
Oh, Gravitas! I know those guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're big time, right? So it'll be on Amazon, iTunes, DVD, and then probably 6 months later it'll be on Netflix, somewhere in that range. And we also work with Lotus Entertainment. So Lotus is our sales agent, but they're also our international distributor. So they're setting up all our international distribution. We already have sold to the Middle East, to Turkey, and maybe Japan. I can't remember. There's 3 territories we've sold into already. So look out, whatever those territories are. For you.
Very cool.
And did you meet them at the festival? Like, did you make your connections with the distributors at one of the festivals, or you?
No, actually, we knew them. So Kevin actually knew them. He had made contact with them previous, and they loved the script from the outset. So they were pretty much on board before we even made the film. Cool. It was basically, as long as we don't fuck it up, we got a deal.
Excellent.
So, there's a little bit of pressure, but not too much. But once he saw the footage, he's like, "Yeah, let's go. We can make this work." And it's gonna, we've been very fortunate. Like you said, we've done well at some festivals, and having the backing of Lotus and now Gravitas, I think is really going to help launch this film, because even though it's a small film, it doesn't look like a small film, at least in my opinion. And I think if we get it out there and people get the chance to see it, the proudest thing for me is just for all the performers, for them to get recognition, because they just do a phenomenal job, and they all did it for peanuts, right? So I know the reason they do it. They just want to work and act, but I want to see them succeed, and not have to worry about having to take the $100 job all the time anymore, right? I'd love to see them just do so well from this, because they deserve it.
Yep. And as you do well, you're going to bring them to your next project, so it's you keep it in the family.
Up with them, they're no, absolutely. I mean, what do you call it? The next project I'm working on, I even have Lynn Mancinelli, who played Crystal in the film. She's going to be the star of the next one. So, like I said, once I find people I like, I just want to keep them together and just keep working with them. So, absolutely.
Phenomenal.
She was good, Crystal, also, who played. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the female characters were great, because those were definitely tough roles to play.
Amanda Clayton, right? Excellent job. Yes.
Oh yeah. That's Kevin's wife.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's his real life wife, and she was great too. And
oh yes,
she was a real trooper. I mean, there's a couple of scenes where she's bound and gagged and everything, and we cut the scenes and their hands are all like ripped up from all the binds and everything. And I'm like, I'm just directing, so thank you very much for using yourself like that. I appreciate it.
You got the easy seat, right? So, exactly. What are we're nearing the end of the interview and all that good stuff, and we like to leave people with a bunch of advice. What are 2 things that you learned from making Bad Frank?
Number one, I'd say preparation. for whatever you do, the preparation is really going to guide what the end result is, right? So, I spent months getting locations and working on set lists and shot lists and all this sort of stuff, right? So you got to do your prep work. You can't just show up and hope the magic is going to happen, right? You got to be prepared for any contingency. Sun, rain, lighting goes out. What do you do if things go wrong? So if you're prepped, you can handle it, right? Because as a director, you can never show fear, right? You just always have to be calm and, okay, that didn't work. All right, let's pivot. Let's move on to here. Let's do this, right? So that's the one thing I'd say is preparation. The other thing I'd say is just think smart, right? Know what your capabilities are and how you can handle them, and work with your team, right? So like I said, guys, we've talked about it quite a bit, right? Is find the people that you can work with, that you can trust, that you work well with. And as long as you keep them close and treat them well, then, they'll be with you forever. I'm extremely loyal to the people I work with, and I like to think that they're loyal to me as well, because I've got people that are continually coming back as well, right? And I think if I didn't treat them well, if I didn't do the right things for them, they wouldn't continue to do that. So, to me, those are probably the two biggest things.
Very cool. So do you want to give the folks at home where they can find you, where they can find the film, how to keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter. I'm Tony Germ, TonyGerm at Twitter. Also the same on Instagram, and we also have Bad Frank Movie on Twitter. So you can catch any information on the film, myself, and all those sort of good stuff coming up on any of those channels.
Awesome, Tony. Thank you for joining us tonight. We had a blast.
No, I appreciate it, guys. This is great. Looking forward to it.